Hello, I'm Dr. Gianna from the Harmony Center, and this is Carla, our amazing practice member. We've been working together since the beginning of September, and now we are at the end of February. And so Carla is going to share with us a little bit about her journey with us today. So, what was your experience when you first came to us for network spinal care? From what you remember, what were you looking for? What was life like for you then? What was it that was really going on for you?
Yeah, big question. There was a lot going on. It was a very emotionally kind of turbulent time for me. And I was at the tail end of 2 years of being in a relationship that really wasn't serving me. And I had really stopped listening to myself. And I was working on all of these different ways of trying to feel better, trying to improve. I was meditating, I was doing yoga, I was taking walks, I was running, I was doing all these things that I felt like should be helping, and still feeling really lost and really stuck and just like not sure where to go.
Mm,
And my therapist actually recommended, I asked her to recommend a place that I could go to potentially get some help with understanding what was going on with my body and becoming more connected to my body because I was starting to work through with her some emotional issues and talk therapy, but I was really still very isolated and alone in terms of physical community. Um,
mm,
and being able to just work through those things with other people in community, and not doing it in isolation, which
mm,
is sort of where I've tended to go in the past. And
mm.
so that's how I ended up at Harmony Center. Um, and I think I answered your question. Was there?
Yeah, I love that you even knew to ask for that. That's just so cool. And, your intuition of like, I want something that's going to help me connect with my body and I want to do it in person with others. Like, I think that's so amazing. 'Cause it's like, that's exactly what we do. It's like you specifically asked for it. And I just love the wisdom that you followed of your inner knowing that that was the next piece of the puzzle for you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that I asked that question. There's like a lot of things out there on the internet around like somatic healing and learning how to become more in touch with your body, but there's a difference for me between watching a YouTube video or actually learning about it from somebody who
Yeah.
knows what they're talking about, someone who has lived in this and practiced this. And yeah, the difference could not be more like night and day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a really big learning experience for me, just actually connecting with my body, probably for the first time in my life.
Wow. Wow. Can you share a little bit more about that? Like, what has opened up for you? What has been your experience of what you're noticing in your body and your life that's progressed or changed or developed as a result of this time that you've been in network spinal care, been receiving this care?
Yeah. One of the most noticeable is the physical changes. I've had pretty chronic back pain my entire life, beyond just what was going on for the last couple years. And I've never really been able to solve it. I've been to more traditional chiropractors, and it always comes back. And in the last 6 months, through network spinal care, through much more intentional strength training and being just more intentional about how I carry myself and my body and being aware of my posture, it's almost completely gone away. Of course, I
Mm,
still feel it every so often, but I'll be walking down the street and often have moments where I'm like, wow, I don't feel that pain that I've felt
mm.
for years. Like that's just really, and it's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. So that's been incredible. Um,
Awesome.
and I remember very early on in my treatments and the entrainments, feeling like my nervous system was finally connecting. It was very much like the goosebump, tingly
Mm,
feeling that you get. Sometimes my hands would go numb while we were doing the sessions, and I would just feel so like it was a good period of probably 2 or 3 months when I was coming in twice a week that I was getting these feelings, and it slowly felt like things were starting to connect. And I was just becoming much more aware of how I held myself all the time.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, that's been one of the most noticeable just day to day has been the lack of pain. And I think with that has come, as we talked about before we started recording this session, just like more awareness in myself and where I am at in the world, my awareness in relation to other people, my patience and my ability to like take a breath, take a moment before I engage with anything,
mm,
and just really slow down has been, it's felt like my nervous system has finally just like stopped going at hyper speed and feeling panicked all the time. And I can really just like engage at a different level now.
mm.
Um, yeah, that's been phenomenal.
That's so awesome. And, I really see that going hand in hand with the back pain. It's like the back pain being a biofeedback. It's the feedback from our system that there's something we need to pay attention to. And there's something in the relationship that we have with ourselves and how we feel about ourselves and how we hold ourselves in the world, um, or our self perception that's really tied into physical pain. So it's like as your nervous system's learning to connect, if it can't connect, it can't release. Right? So if
Right.
it's disconnected, then that the feedback of pain is going to, in some ways, the intelligence of that is the reminder that we're disconnected. There hasn't been enough energy in our nervous system to deal with this. So your nervous system's getting connected and learning new strategies to be able to release. And then it creates a positive feedback loop where you're feeling better about yourself. You're holding yourself in a different posture. You're treating yourself differently. You're more connected to other people. So then that continues that positive feedback of like the pain is no longer relevant or really needed to get your attention in that way because you are able to be connected with yourself.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I feel like when I started, I was very much in this period of like contracting, like always kind of hunching over, like more just it felt like I didn't have the energy to put out to people. I was
Mhm.
very much going inward, and now I feel very much like I'm in an outward kind of expansion state of I have the ability to deal with things. I feel better. I'm standing up taller. Like it's a big difference.
Mm, so beautiful. Yeah, I see it in your posture too when I see you. That's beautiful. Amazing. Um, awesome. What would you say the biggest kind of aha or breakthrough for you has been, like in your own journey going through this work?
I would say maybe two things.
Okay.
One has just been that I didn't need to be living life the way that I was living life. And for a while, it felt very much like that was like the level of anxiety and just like my nervous system being where it was at. Like it felt like that was going to be what it was forever. It felt like the pain I was feeling was chronic pain that it was only going to get worse.
Mm,
And so I've had a whole perspective shift of like it really didn't take all that much to completely flip those things around. But that was one thing that was really mind blowing to me has
mm,
been just like it doesn't take all that much. Uh,
mm,
and we are not
mhm,
stuck in a certain path or a certain direction. Um, and the other thing has just been how amazing doing this in community has been.
mm,
One thing I really love about Harmony Center is that the entrainments are done in a room with other people. You're not so isolated when you're going through these experiences, and then you
mhm,
offer things like what I'm going to go to later tonight, the somatic
mhm.
work, again in a room full of people, and it's healing in a way that I've never done it before. And I think it's, for me, I love it. For me, it's like a completely different experience than the pretty standard way of receiving healthcare, of going into a room and being very isolated and alone on your journey.
Yeah,
And so those two things have been like pretty amazing for me.
awesome. Thank you so much. Beautiful. My last question for you is, how would you describe this, like in your own way, in your own words? Like, what is it that we're really doing? What is this network spinal care all about?
Ooh, I've struggled to describe this to other people, so let's see how we do this time. Um,
Another way to answer that is also like, who do you think this is helpful for?
Yeah. I I think it's helpful for people who feel stuck, who really want
Mm,
to move forward but just aren't sure how.
yeah.
This is a very different approach, kind of like echoing what I just said, but a very different approach to care.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you're like, I think I'm sure this is written somewhere on the walls. You're caring for a whole person, and that's what it
Mm,
feels like instead of just targeting specific pain or some specific experience that they've had. You're kind of looking at the whole individual.
mm,
And you ask, there's physical evaluations, there's like body and physical touch in the entrainments, and then there's also like asking how someone is at the start of each session and like building community within the people who attend Harmony Center. And I think all of those things kind of come together to be care for a whole person.
mm-hmm.
And at some point in the last month or two, when I had to scale back the number of sessions that I was doing every month just for personal reasons, I actually cried to my therapist a little bit because I was like, I'm just
Aw.
gonna miss having these like regular touch points with them because it means so much to me to have like be able to come see them.
Aw.
And so I that like you became a part of my life and really like felt important to me. Um, and I think that speaks volumes because I don't think I've ever
Mm.
a
I'm
healthy
gonna cry. That's so touching. I'm gonna cry. Yeah, it's like it is like a family. It is like a family. And I mean, it's intimate work that we're doing, like someone's spine the way I hold it is like the most intimate part of their being, is it holds all of the potential energy for the future and all of the history of that person's life. Um, so it's so intimate, it's so intimate and vulnerable and beautiful and real what we're doing. So I thank you for sharing that. I feel really touched.
Yeah, of course. You've helped change my life, so I'm happy to share.
Oh, thank you, Carla. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I hope that this touches someone who, I agree, this is really great for someone who feels stuck and maybe doesn't know how easy it could potentially be for their life to shift. So I'm hoping that someone out there who's in those shoes that you were just 6 months ago can listen to this and hear your story and be inspired for potential for healing. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Yay.